Good morning, YouTube. I hope you guys are doing well. I don't know why I greeted YouTube as if I'm talking to YouTube. I'm talking to you guys. Good morning, guys. Hope you guys are doing okay. I know it's hump day, mostly a bad day for most people. But anyways, I hope this video gives you a little bit of motivation, a little bit of excitement, or just something distracts you from whatever you're not excited about today, okay? I was actually outside recently doing some weeding, which I know you guys are all very interested in, and that's why I wanted to get on this video right away to share it with you. No, when I was weeding, and there was just tons of weeds going all over the place, it's strange how sometimes these weird epiphanies kind of just hit me while I'm doing something completely unrelated to music, but this one actually hit home while I was pulling out some weeds, and it's something that I've talked about here on my channel a couple of times, but this analogy I think really will help explain it a lot better. And I know, especially if those of you have ever weeded yourselves, you've ever pulled anything out of the ground and had any experience with that, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? So when you're going to pull out weeds from your grass, your backyard, wherever, what's the golden rule? What's the thing that everybody will tell you? You've got to get them by the root, right? If you just go to a weed or grab a bunch of them with your hand and try to just grab them all at once, what happens? Well, you do it too quickly. You might pull the top stalk off, but the root's still there, right? So there's just a bunch of roots all over the ground. On the surface, when you look out after doing something like that, it might look like, yeah, I weeded it. Look, there's no more weeds. But what's happening underneath the surface is the roots are still there and they're going to grow back very, very quickly. Okay, so you basically got rid of a symptom, but you didn't go to the root cause of what was creating that weed. Now, I know weeds come back, but just roll with me on this analogy, okay? So this is what people who do the bare minimum do, okay? They go up to a weed and they just want to yank it out. Okay, I did it. The weed's gone, right? The weed is gone, and I'm moving on. I just want to get this whole thing done right away, okay? But an effective gardener, somebody who knows what they're doing, and it doesn't take rocket science to figure this out, they will, sometimes it requires you got to be slower, right? You got to get deeper down, closer to the ground. Stay with me now. This is not going to be a gardening video, but you need to stay closer to the ground, to the dirt. And sometimes for some weeds, you have to pull out slower. And that's the only way that you'll actually be able to pull the root out with it, okay? Other weeds, you just have to, sometimes dig your fingers into the dirt a little bit to get a little bit more leverage to pull it out, okay? This is basically the 10% extra effort concept that I'm sharing with you in this video. So if you want to get it done right, you want to weed your garden the right way and have less work for yourself down the road, then you actually have to put in that, we're not talking about twice as much time. We're talking about 10% extra, pulling a little slower, digging a little deeper, just being a little bit more mindful of the fact that you need to get the roots out if you really want to effectively weed your garden, right? Switch over to music licensing. This is the 10% that's basically going to separate you from everybody else. Most people in life are minimum achievers, or they just want to do the minimum work, right? Whatever's the minimum required of them to get through something, they will do that. And there's many different factors for it. Most of us were brought up in public schools where that was kind of taught of like, as long as you get a C or a D, sometimes you got through the class. And so like, just do the bare minimum to get yourself through it. And a lot of times, unfortunately, maybe you guys are in a day job right now where that's where your mode is. You're like, I just want to do enough to not get fired. I don't really care about exceeding. I'm not really incentivized to do a whole bunch extra. I just want to do the bare minimum to kind of get through the day, get my paycheck and go home. Okay. And work on music probably, right? In sync licensing, what are these little 10% extra effort things that I'm talking about? I was kind of, that's what started to hit me. I was like, this is totally the same concept. So if you do string orchestral production, or maybe you're getting into string orchestral production where you're throwing strings maybe onto, even if you're doing hybrid stuff, like you do hip hop music, but you want to throw strings on top. Well, what's the bare minimum approach to that? Just throw, you got some staccato strings, you got some violins, you just kind of throw that stuff up on top. Hopefully it sounds good. Cool, we got strings on there, therefore I have a hybrid, bounce it, and you're done, right? That's the bare minimum. That's usually what most producers are doing when they want to include strings on their track. So what's the 10% extra effort? Well, modulating those strings, adding some dynamics to them, sometimes getting into your automation signals and making sure that the strings actually breathe from note to note, right? Getting into your actual sampler or whatever you're using, messing with the modulations, messing with the room samples or the reverb samples that they're contained in, stacking up some different sounds, some different strings, sometimes adding a lower octave or a harmony part, a counterpart, something like that kind of thicken up your string section. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not asking people to, and I don't think it's requiring people to do double the work to do this kind of stuff. It's literally 10% extra. It's just a little bit more. It's digging down into the root, pulling the weed out by the root. That's what it is, okay? Just throwing strings on there, hitting bounce, not doing much about it, that is just grabbing the weed really quick, but you haven't really solved it, right? That's the bare minimum approach. So other examples, I was talking about this in the previous corporate pop track walkthrough that I did on my channel here. I think it was last week or the week before, where I showed you guys some of the stuff I was doing with my drums. Now, I did perform those drums, but I was also talking about how the fact that you can achieve the same exact sound and realistic vibe that I got by doing little things like adding those ghost notes onto your snare track, right? These tiny little incremental notes that sort of subdivide the main hits on 2 and 4. Watch that video if you don't know what I'm talking about. And also having different drum fills from this verse to that verse or from this chorus to that chorus. So randomizing things a little bit more, making it feel a little bit more like a human being performed it, not just, all right, I got my 4 bars. This is the minimum approach. Let me just copy and paste these 4 bars. Or I got this really cool drum fill and I'm going to use it every time I transition to a new section of the song. You guys see that that's the minimum approach. That's the C- approach of like, yeah, it's a track and yeah, there are transitions, but 10% extra would skyrocket your professionalism and your licensability and the quality of your tracks. So that's, again, another example. Another thing, when you bounce your tracks, I know a lot of producers will just bounce a track, label it, send it off to their library. Okay, yeah, hopefully you got a great sounding mix. Hopefully you know your studio well enough to catch any anomalies or any sort of imbalances. But 10% extra effort would be bounce it down, put it on your phone, go into your car, listen to it in your car speakers, listen to it in headphones, listen to it on a laptop with crappy tiny little speakers. These days, TV shows, movies, commercials, they're getting played on all kinds of content. So that means your music needs to sound pretty good on all kinds of content. So you put it on your, let's say you put it on your phone, you hit play, not through your headphones, but just through the speaker on your phone, and you've completely lost all of the low end. Like you can't even hear the bass anymore because all of your bass was in the subs and you had no mid-range to the bass, stuff like that, right? So double checking your mixes, right? This is a little bit extra. It takes 10% extra effort, but it's going to make sure that you have very licensable tracks. And this also goes into just double checking all of your stuff. I mean, one of the things that I can't stress enough, because I deal with this all the time with the licensing opportunities that I offer, is when I ask for stems, it's gotten actually a lot better. I got to give my syndicate students a lot of love. You guys have gotten a lot better in the last couple of, probably the last 6 months to a year. But it still happens from time to time where I'll give specific directions on, I need your stems to be like this, I need your alt mixes to be like this, I need them to be labeled exactly like that. I need your stems to be independently mixed down, and I need them all to be separated and labeled appropriately, metadata, so I have all this stuff lined up. But still, there'll be people that will send me something and they send me, let's say, the full and the no lead mix, and the no lead mix still has the leads. So it was an oversight on their part. They didn't mute out the lead section, right? So the minimum approach is just to bounce all your stuff. Cool, it's in there, send it off. What's the 10% extra in that situation? Go back and listen to your mixes, right? Go make sure, double check. Did I really get it right? Did I follow the guidelines? Are they in the right 24-bit 48K wave format or whatever it is that you're being requested by your library, right? This is the kind of stuff that I mean on the 10% extra. It's not a lot, but doing these tiny little things and making sure that you're making your library partners' lives easier, really easy, that's what's going to separate you from the masses. Because the masses, I guarantee you, even after watching this, most people probably still won't do this stuff. So if you're watching this, please don't be like the herd of people out there that are just doing the bare minimum and not pushing themselves to go a little bit above and beyond. This is one of the reasons why also I've had another student of mine email me the other day asking about, he was a little bit worried and afraid about, I don't know if I should get started. I don't feel like I'm really ready yet, and all this kind of stuff. And he was also worried about like how many other producers were in this industry. And of course, that scares a lot of people from thinking, well, there's just no space for me because there's already too many people out there doing it. And I understand that because I've definitely dealt with that in my career as well, so I don't want to discount it. But I sent him a link to the video I did, which was called "You'll Never Be Ready," and I put "ready" in quotes to do this full time. What I meant by that video, you should definitely watch it if you didn't catch that one, is that you're never going to feel that way. You're never going to feel 100% ready to be competitive and have all the answers and all that kind of stuff. That should never stop you. But especially when you are worried about saturation and you're worried about, well, there's so many people out here doing this, I don't really know. Just take my word for it. You can or cannot take my word for it, but I'm just going to give you my truth. Never worry about that, because as long as you can give that extra 10%, you will blow the competition out of the water. I just know this because this is what I've seen in this industry. I've seen so many producers come and go, so many producers that are on fire, 100%, cranking out track after track. 3 months into it, they're gone. Just gone. I don't know. Just bye-bye. They couldn't stick with it. I don't know what the reason was. They can't stick with it. So many producers, most producers, are just not double checking their work, not adding that automation, not double checking their mixes, not going the extra mile with their drum fills and all that kind of stuff, right? Or I'd even mention, if you're programming a bass line, maybe you should have some different kind of fills with your bass, so you don't just have the same bass progression every time a chorus hits. But maybe on that last chorus, you get a little more intricate with a kind of a cool, interesting bass melody that sort of counteracts or counterparts the rest of the track or something. So this is the kind of stuff that most producers are not doing. So if you're not scared of getting into the dirt, pulling the root out, doing that extra 10% of work, if you're not afraid of that, then you shouldn't be afraid of saturation. You shouldn't be afraid of oversaturation or an overcrowded marketplace. You can make that same excuse for any industry. So if you wanted to become a real estate investor, you could sit there and go, aren't there too many real estate investors already? Aren't there, there's only so many places I can buy, and I don't know if there's enough deals out there. Sure. I mean, if you just don't want to get started, you could use that as an excuse. And right now, if you just feel like, well, there's too many people, I don't think I want to get started. If that's something that, if you're looking for an excuse not to get started, you can use that. Absolutely. But just know that that's not special for this industry. That is a universal fear that everybody getting into any new field, you can use that. You can pull that card out and go, well, I wanted to become a doctor, but it's too impactful, and or there's too many people in it. It's too impacted. I can't get into it. I don't think so. Okay, sure. But you got to realize what that is, though. That's just you letting yourself off the hook, because it's not true. Because as long as you're willing to put in that extra effort, you can blow past all the competition. So that's what I want to share with you guys today. I hope you guys found this inspirational, motivational, whatever it might be. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Share these kind of videos with your friends and family, and any musician or producer or bandmates that you might have that might need this kind of information, or just need a little kick in the butt, a little bit of motivation. It doesn't have to be rocket science to do it really well, especially in the sync licensing industry. It really doesn't take crazy amounts of effort, but persistence and this 10% extra effort concept that I've shared with you today will take you a very long way. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.